Hey everyone, today we are taking a look at legendary weapons. Now I've gotten a couple questions recently on information on them, so I thought I'd go over everything that I know about them, starting with kind of the most basic concepts and then going through to the more advanced topics. So let's go ahead and start with looking at where to find them. There is a main quest that will allow you to get one legendary weapon for free, so I would definitely start with that if you don't have any legendary weapons yet. However, if you accidentally delete your legendary weapon or you need a new one, you can go into your inventory and down to the Legend tab and select one of these legendary weapons and click the little plus sign at the bottom. This will automatically port you to the legendary weapon vendor, and you can then purchase your legendary weapons from him. Now it now costs hearts in order to get your legendary weapon, which is kind of sucky because it used to be 100 gold and you got your new weapon. I think it's slightly more expensive now. So I wouldn't recommend doing this unless you absolutely have to. Instead, what you should really be doing, the other thing you can do is buy it for these like puzzle piece things. I can't read what it is on my laptop. And though I've never actually seen where these drop, I suspect that you buy them for coupons. Now, instead of purchasing a second weapon, if you've decided that you are not sure that you want to stick with your class or you want to convert your weapon over, it's really better to do the Profession Master one. And to get to that, you have to go into the shop option at the top. And this first tab that comes right up, it's at the very bottom. Well, mine is at the very bottom because I've already purchased it, but it is in there. And this is probably the only thing I really recommend you purchasing in the game. And that's because it allows you to transfer between classes very easily. If you're set on one class and you don't want to switch, that's one thing, that's fine. But I really highly recommend this. Now, if you have the Profession Master, what this allows you to do is go into your legendary weapon. Here I'm going to just equip it, and then you can convert it. So here, if you click on convert, you can, when you click on your weapon, you can then convert it to an offhand weapon or a main hand weapon, which is really cool because then you can go ahead and test out what you think is best. But not only does it allow you to test out whether you think the offhand or main hand weapon is better, when you transfer classes here, I'm going to transfer over to a different class. It then allows me to transfer my weapon that I had and put it into another class. So here I have a shield, and a shield's not going to help me because I can't use a shield as a dragon rider. So if I can convert that, I can now put it in as my chain offhand. So this is really helpful, and it will allow you to switch between your classes and not have to worry about buying weapons for each of your classes. So again, here I can then switch it to a main hand and it'll equip it into my main hand. And so here you can see that really this allows you to do so much more with just your legendary weapon beyond all the other benefits that the Profession Master will allow you to get. Okay, so legendary weapons are not great to use right at the start because they're pretty low. However, if you have your legendary weapon, one thing it's really great to do is I keep mine in my altar because beyond what everything else is, here I can put in my regular items, but if I equip my legendary weapon in here, I will get a huge stat bonus over just the other items that I keep in the altar. If you need more information on your altar, there is another video that I have specifically on how to do this altar section. But I usually keep my legendary weapon in there just because it does a bigger stat bonus over any of the other weapons that I tend to put into those slots. Okay, so you have a legendary weapon now and you have it in you want to up it. So first thing we're going to do is go back into your inventory and go down to legendary weapon. Now there's two things or three things you really need in order to up your legendary weapon. The first the end one are these kind of like orangish shards. Now I go in and convert my middle shards to those, and it will allow me to get enough of those. Now these middle shards you get from overlords, and I'll show you where in just a minute, but that way I have those too. Now for the shards themselves, the first thing, you can go in and exchange them this way, but in order to kind of merge them in. Now I always have done this, but it's a really cruddy conversion rate. You end up with like one shard for every 5 of the other shards, which is not great. So where do you get these little shard pieces that I'm talking about here? You get them from the world events. So daily I run this and I go ahead and you can click on the map and then click on those. It'll automatically take you there. They're also found under daily and world events, as you saw. I brought up the menu that way also. So here you can click the quests and just really quickly complete the quest. This is what you saw at the introduction of the video. When you complete these quests, you then turn them in and you get a little chest under your map window, and you can see them kind of here. There, it's covered up by the thing, but I usually go through and do all of these at once and then go back and open the chests. Okay, here I am completed with those quests, and I'm just going to click on each of these chests at the bottom, and one of the things you get are these boxes with the shards in them, and you can see because they come up with a picture of the different weapons here. Regardless of whether you're finishing or working on your legendary weapon right now, you should be doing these daily, every single day, especially if you're free to play, because you're going to need these shards later on. Okay, so the next thing you're going to do is I'm going to go into my legendary weapon, and now I have enough of my shards, so I can up it to the next level, which I just did here, which didn't really do a whole lot, but there you go. All right, so besides these 3 things that you need kind of in the in-between phases of, before phasing it up to the next level, you will also need hearts. Now, hearts you can get from Overlord dungeons. Here you can see them there, and below those are those sky crystals that you need also for your legendary weapons. So the hearts are something that you're going to need a lot of. There's a couple ways to get them. This Overlord dungeon, completing all 3 of those chests every week, is the main way I would suggest to get these hearts. Another way to get the hearts is in the reputation shop for 100 gold each. I don't typically do this because I tend to find that I get all the shards at the same rate that I need to I get all the hearts. The other is occasionally under the event menu, there'll be an event where you can exchange these whatever items they are at the time for hearts, and you can exchange them for up to 3 hearts, which is pretty useful. And here, if I go into the shop, the way I get those like little items is they'll have some sort of holiday or festival thing here. This time it happens to be a little Halloween pumpkin. Usually for like 30 diamonds, you can exchange for a few of those. So you end up spending quite a few diamonds, maybe 1,000 or something, maybe less, maybe more. But you can get those hearts that way when you buy those little items in the shop and then go into the festival and exchange them. Also, sometimes they run this Overlord trial thing under the event menu that you just saw. And when you do that, you get basically double rewards for the chest that you get. So if they're running this, it takes you to a person in the main city, and when you turn those in, you will get an extra heart once you've completed that 3rd chest. So those 2 items are events, so they only happen sometimes, but those are other ways to get hearts, and I would definitely look for those. All right, so now you've got your hearts, you've got your shards, you've got your weapon, you've upped your weapon a bit, and you're now going, do I start using it? The gear score is really sucky, and the rate's a little lower, sometimes it's nearby, but do I use it yet? So here I'm going into the training area in the main city, and what I would suggest doing is putting your weapon in your offhand and then your main hand. Go over to this level 85 dummy once you find him. He's got red around him. And then I would practice to see what your DPS is when you're using this dummy. So here I've got the shield. I kind of use it as, what is it with my regular weapons? Is it going to be a decent DPS? I'm a tank, so my DPS sucks anyway, and I'm a Templar, so it's not even as good as it was when I was Dragon Rider. But I still try and kind of gauge it off of that a little bit. If you're DPS class, this is definitely, the way to go to see if your DPS is higher with this weapon. So here I'm just testing for the one, test it for several seconds to kind of get it to flatten out and see what the average is. Then you can step back from the dummy and you can go back into your inventory. You can see what kind of skills do the most damage. That's also very helpful. But you can then go back into your inventory and switch it out for, here I've got it, I was using my legendary weapon. So now I switched it back over. I'm going to switch my altar so that my legendary weapon is back in my altar. And then I'm going to go ahead and try it again with using my regular weapons. At this point, I can also transfer my weapon over to a main hand weapon because right now I'm using a shield, and test it out that way as well to see if the shield does differently. There's several weapons you can have. You can try out, here I've got a hammer, a sword, those sort of things. I can try out all the different types of legendary weapons and see if there's something that might work a little bit better or that I like better. So it really helps that you can play around with this so much and test it out on the dummies and see if it's worth it for you to switch over your legendary weapon and use that instead of a regular weapon. Make sure if you do use your legendary weapon, keep a regular weapon on hand, because when you go up in overlord levels, sometimes you need to be able to boost your gear score a little higher and not use your legendary weapon. So just keep a regular weapon on hand and your legendary weapon if you decide to use your legendary weapon. Okay, so that's it for kind of the basics and the tips. Let's go over some of the slightly more advanced things for the legendary weapons. As your legendary weapon becomes higher, the shards tend to be a little bit more of an issue than the hearts. One fix for this is to go into your legendary weapon page and click on a legendary weapon that you don't currently have, but that you have a lot of shards for. Then click the convert button to convert your weapon to another weapon. This next screen will allow you to convert your weapon while maintaining the shards that you currently have. So here I need to have another item, which I do not currently have, in order to convert my weapon over. So I'm going to go to the shop, and there you can see it's kind of expensive to do this. For the level I'm at, I would need 15 of these items, and it would be several thousand diamonds. Now, that's a lot of diamonds. For me, I'm not sure it's worth it, but at the same time, these shards can be really hard to come by, and legendary weapons really make the difference when you're a DPS player. So if I got these, I could then convert my weapon over and use all of those shards. The second tab at the top is the normal conversion, and I will show you here when you convert it this way, it does not keep the shards. So here I'm going to go ahead and convert it. And if I convert it this way, the shards, you can see the shard counts here, will also change as well. So now I might have had one of these shield shards before. When I convert it, even though the other one had 3, I now only have 1 of these other weapon because it converts the shards as well. So here it's like if you have all these other shards, it's not useful. However, this other page that you go into, that will allow you to convert your weapon and keep the shards so that you can then, if you have 500, 200, 400 of another shard, you can go in and convert your weapon over using diamonds and then use all of those shards as well. So that's very helpful if you're behind because of the shards. This also allows you to avoid that issue where you are exchanging your shards, which is what I would normally have done, for it's like 1 shard per every 5 shard ratio, which is really bad, especially if you have a lot of these saved up or if you're opening a lot of chests because you're spending money to do that. So it's really way better option than going through this direction and just exchanging a bunch of shards and for the others. Just for completeness, if you go into the exchange option, you can lock down your shards, and it's the second tab up at the top. You can then lock shards so that you don't have to worry about accidentally exchanging them, or I guess that would be it. I don't know if this is all that helpful, but if you really have a lot of one particular type of shard and you really want to make sure you save it until you're ready to convert those, you can go through here and click on the different items to lock and unlock them. You're watching VGO 40, and this is VGO Girl, and hopefully you found this helpful for all you need to know about legendary weapons. Thank you for watching.